Morning, sir.
The same thing. So we have one of the same things, and then everything
Okay. They're just watching TV.
Do they have the screens?
Yeah.
Sorry, I feel like I had to jump up. We all have that problem.
She could see it.
Yeah, but they.
Was that side of it?
This is like.
It's like a different
Yeah, and there's no way that you can.
Yeah, thanks.
So that's probably good.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. We are glad you are here. Welcome to our new board meeting. If everybody would lower their chairs so that you cannot see over the And after lowering the chairs, we are going to begin with an invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Director Piotr, if you would invoke the Lord's presence, and Director Puckett, if you would salute our flag, please.
Turn on my microphone. Thank you, Pete. Bow your heads with me. This is a fun little fact that many of you are probably aware of with Benjamin Franklin at the time when they were trying and struggling to come up with a constitution everybody could agree with. He had this statement. He said, "I therefore beg leave to move that henceforth prayers imploring our assistance of heaven and his blessings on our deliberations be held in this assembly every morning before we proceed to business, and that one or more of the clergy of the city be requested to officiate in that service." God, we look for you and we ask the same thing. We ask for your wisdom, your guidance on this body. Bless the actions that we take. Give us your wisdom and insight. And we ask these things in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me as we salute the symbol of the great flag of our country.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Scott, Chuck, thank you so very much. We are going to proceed to Roman numeral 2, public comments. Madam Clerk, do we have any sheets?
We have none.
We have none. All right, then we will work our way right through the agenda to Roman numeral number 3. This is the San Joaquin Hills consent calendar. Any of the directors from San Joaquin wish to pull an item? We all look pretty good. We don't need a roll call. Well, all right, we'll go with the roll call. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll for us, please?
Chair Chun. Vice Chair Carew. Here.
Director Hack.
Here.
Director Miniger.
Present.
Alternate Reidenheimer.
Here.
Director Piotr.
Here.
Director Schofel.
Here.
Chair Young.
Here.
Director Beal.
Here.
Director Crane. Director Murphy.
Here.
Director Nelson. Director Puckett.
Here.
Director Voigt. Director Mueller.
Here.
Vice Chair Bartlett. Here. Director Ferguson.
Present.
Director Martinez. Director Shea. Director Spitzer. Director Sachs.
Here.
Director Ward.
Here.
Director Chamberlain. We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you very much. We will revert back to Roman numeral number 3 for the consent calendar. Any directors from San Joaquin wish to pull an item off the consent calendar? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion from Director Hacks. Get our bearings here, thank you. And
We only have 9.
I think we're short form. We're short one? Okay, very good. That was not a joke regarding our chairs. We're actually missing one of our members. All right, we can still take a vote on the San Joaquin, because it's Foothill Eastern, you're saying we're missing one. All right, very good. So we have a motion from Director Hacks and a second from Director Bartlett on the San Joaquin Hills consent calendar. All of those on that board, say aye.
Aye.
Any noes? Any abstentions?
I have an extension, I'm sorry.
Very good.
I have to abstain from item number 1, the approval of minutes.
Very good. And just an abstention to not being in the report, right? And for all of our memory folks, if you happen not to have been at a meeting and you forget to do an abstention, no worries. The clerk's really good at making sure that if you weren't at the meeting, they will automatically put you in as an abstention. Thank you for that. Okay, so we cannot proceed. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. We are in good shape. Director Boyce, we are glad that you are here just in the nick of time.
Director Boyce, here present.
We are glad you're here. So with that, we're going to move to item number 4, which is the Foothill Eastern. And Madam Clerk, I'm assuming that's all we need is one additional for our quorum for Foothill Eastern. So we are. Yeah, we're going to move to Roman numeral 4, Foothill Eastern consent calendar.
Move the calendar.
Good. We have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion from Director Puckett. Very good. And I'm trying to remember who I heard there. Who seconded?
Second.
Oh, good. Director Ferguson. Did anybody wish to pool? I should have asked for that. Any pooling on the consent calendar? All right. For the Foothill Eastern, all in favor of the consent, say aye.
Aye.
Any noes? Any abstentions? Very good. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We are moving to Roman numeral 5, the board business. Roman numeral 5, number 8. This is a joint item, temporary staffing services. And Madeline, welcome. You are going to give us a briefing, as I understand.
Good morning. I'm Madeline Valle, Director of Customer Service. The item before you is to request authorization for the Chief Executive Officer to amend and execute contracts with temporary staffing services in support of customer service operations. This item was presented to the Joint Operations Committee on August 24th, and the committee unanimously recommended it be presented to the board for approval. As we prepare to select and onboard a new long-term customer service operator, the agencies will fill vacancies with temporary staff obtained from various service providers. The temporary staff would be used in lieu of direct hiring and utilize the same budget dollars. The firms that provide displacement services are well equipped to provide people willing to take short-term positions. Staff establishes contracts with multiple firms to provide the service on an as-needed basis in order to promote competition and provide a broader candidate pool. The board's existing authorization has proven beneficial in addressing workload needs. However, additional authorization is needed to align with the increased use. These services will continue to be utilized until a new long-term operations contractor is brought on board towards the end of the fiscal year. The funds for the services are included in the board's FY17 approved budget for customer service labor. The recommendation today is to authorize the Chief Executive Officer to amend and execute contracts for temporary staffing services through June 30th of 2017 with additional contracting capacity of $350,000 for San Joaquin Hills and $337,000 for Foothill Eastern. This concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer your questions at this time.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Patel. Do we have any questions? Director Hacks?
Yeah, could you explain the distinction between the amounts and why the greater amount falls to San Joaquin, please?
It was based on the splits that were approved in the budgets of 49% and 51%. So 49% for Foothill, 51% for San Joaquin.
And that was arranged how? How did we get to 4950? And then, how did we get to that particular breakdown?
Good morning, directors. As part of our annual budget process, staff looks at the cost, where there should be properly allocated, the revenue, all those aspects, and it determined that the split for customer service is more aligned with a 49% towards Foothill Eastern and 51% towards San Joaquin.
Okay.
So we apply that split to the
And the
majority of
rationale for greater demand for personnel for San Joaquin is in what regard?
That was heavily driven by our violation processing efforts, and we do incur more violations on San Joaquin on the 7th Street than we do on the 5th. So that played into how we look at the workload and where the majority of our efforts are.
Trying to determine why effectively, because normally our usage is less. So the 73 picked up more usage in this regard?
73 had any.
So it really related to the change in now the way that we process transactions. So when we had both cash and fast track out on the road, there were all those activities that took place out on the road that really affected some of our customer service activities. Now it's just a back office based system, and so we re-looked at everything, and violations plays in pretty heavily as far as the activity that customer service goes through with calls they take and whatnot. So we did a full analysis and determined this year that San Joaquin actually has a higher share.
I didn't realize our characters were so nefarious, and I didn't know.
All right, Director Drew.
Just a comment. I would assume if we were trying to figure out what it is about 73 ridership, is that perhaps because it's more regional, we get people perhaps out of the area using the 73, which would contribute possibly to higher level of customer service issues?
In regards to violations, I disagree with the characterization you provided for the 73, but overall, when we look at where our violators, where their addresses are, they are still the folks that live along our roads. So I don't want to give the impression that we have more violations because of folks from San Diego or Long Beach using 73. It's still a significant portion of folks who live along the road.
And even though there was an emphasis on violations, there is also a higher percentage of revenue now being collected by San Joaquin.
Yes,
So
I
that played in
understand
as well. So it wasn't just violations. I didn't want to give you
Yeah,
more
you're tapping us a
information.
little more heavily, we understand that.
Yeah.
So, Madeline, technically, you only phoned one friend. Samuel called Amy up, so you still have 2 lifelines left. Directors, are there any other questions? Okay, I have a motion from Director Bartlett.
This item makes a lot of sense because we're talking about temporary staffing services. We're not bringing people on full-time on the payroll with benefits and everything else during this time period. So while we've got the other RFP in progress for the customer service portion of the RFP, this makes perfect sense. So I move this item.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Director Bartlett, a second from Director Ruth. I need a second also from Foothill Eastern, please. And I had a second from Director Sachs. Heard that one first. Comments? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstention? It carries unanimously. Thank you, ma'am. All right, moving on to item number 9. This is also a joint item of both boards, the interim system support contract extension. Rick Carrier, you are up. Welcome.
Good morning. I'm Rick Carrier, the Director of Tolling and Customer Information Systems. This item is a contract extension request for the back office system. This item was discussed and unanimously approved for presentation to the board by the Joint Toll Operations Committee at their meeting on August 24th. BRIC was selected as our back office system contractor through a competitive procurement last year when the contract with 3M was terminated. The BRIC contract scope of work is to support and maintain the existing back office system until a replacement system is in place. The original replacement system schedule was approximately 18 months. That schedule has been extended to align with the customer service center operations procurement. The back office system is the primary tool that's used by the customer service center operators. In order to ensure that the partner we choose to provide customer service can meet their performance targets, we want them to have the opportunity to provide input on the tool that we procure for their use. After we include the operator input for our replacement back office system into the RFP, the procurement of and transition to the new system may take 18 to 24 months. This period will include procurement, development, installation, integration, testing, transition, data migration, and system acceptance. During this period, BRIC will continue to maintain our existing system as well as assist in the transition to the replacement system. The BRIC contract is a time and materials contract with a not to exceed cap on hours. The requested extension includes $220,000 for additional scope for items such as collections integration, mobile app enhancement, national interoperability integration, a customer service kiosk, customer feedback and survey tool integration. Staff negotiated a 2.5% annual escalation in the fixed hourly rates to be consistent with other multi-year contracts. Staff recommends the San Joaquin Hills Board approve an 18-month contract extension and a $1.775 million increase in the contract value. Staff recommends the Foothill Eastern Board approve an 18-month contract extension at a $1.706 million increase in the contract value. Additionally, staff recommends that both boards authorize the CEO to execute amendments up to 10% of the authorized contract value. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Very good, thank you. We have a question from Director Bueller, please.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a question. What was the term of the original contract?
18 months.
And so this is an additional 18-month
Yes.
extension. What was the value of the original contract?
$2,894,972.
And what was the reason for the extension?
This extension is so we can keep our back office system running while we procure the replacement system.
What was supposed to procure the replacement system initially in the original contract?
The original contract was for BRIC to maintain this system while we went out with the procurement for the replacement system. The procurement for the replacement system got delayed because we wanted to align it with the procurement for the operations contract. Originally, the operations contract and the system contract were one procurement. We split those apart so we could get the best of breed, the best operator we could find, and the best system provider we could find.
And so once the new system is installed, are we going to have another contract with BRIC or somebody else to maintain that system as well?
Whoever installs our new system will operate and maintain that system.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Director Bruce.
Mr. Carrier, could you explain the CEO authorization, amending the contract as required? Was there thought given to returning some of those decisions back to the board for review?
If the board wants to not authorize the CEO to the 10% authorization over the amount of the contract extension, we certainly come back to the board. I don't anticipate meeting the 10%. This is a fixed hourly rate, so we manage those rates.
It has been a common practice, though, to have a contingency between 5 and 10%, and so I would recommend that we continue that measure, especially if we want the cost of the customers.
Just like to hear from Samuel, if you would, Mr. Johnson.
As Director and Chairman spoke, sometimes we come across things that weren't planned, and we need to be able to move quickly. So the CEO contingency authorization does give staff a little flexibility in addressing things that they come up that weren't planned. It is a common practice we use on the vast majority of our services.
Any other, yes, Director Bright.
I think we need to understand that the reason we did have a procurement for this set of services, but we have an old legacy system, and unfortunately, BRIC is the only entity out there that can provide the services for this old system. So as we move on to a new system in place for the back office, we're going to have probably a whole host of vendors that are going to come forth and bid on that system through the open RFP process. So we don't really have too much of a choice at this point, but to continue with the service provider for this old legacy product that we have in place. And once we make that transition to the new product, we're going to have different service providers that will come forth and be competitive during the RFP process.
That sounds like a making of a motion.
And I'll make a motion to approve this item.
All right. We have a second from Director Figounder. I need a second from the Foothill Eastern Board member, please. Thank you, Director Boyce. Any other questions? Any other comments? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Thank you.
Carrier, thank you very much. All right, we are moving on forward to items, as you can see, 10 and 11 both. We're going to discuss them together, but then we will vote on them individually. Mr. Walker, welcome, and walk us through the development impact fees, if you would, please.
Yes. Good morning. I'm Greg Walker. I'm manager of internal audit. And the next two items before you are two reports and resolutions, one for San Joaquin and one for Foothill. And they were presented in detail at the Joint Finance and Investment Committee meeting. Each staff report contains 4 recommendations. Recommendations 1 and 2 relate to our annual development fee audits that we do at the member agencies. Recommendations 3 and 4 relate to required reporting under the Mitigation Fee Act. Recommendation 1 is asking that the board receive and file the results of the latest member agency development fee audits. The level of discrepancies that we saw this year were consistent with past years. Overall, there was one overpayment which we refunded, and there were some underpayments also reserved, and we are working with the member agencies to collect those underpayments. Recommendation 2 is related to the audits for next year, and we're asking the board to approve certain member agencies in those audits for next year. The member agencies are selected for audit based on volume of fees, rotation of the audit cycle, and the results of prior audits. Okay, now the report is broken up into 2 sections. In section 2, presents information about our fee program that's required by the Mitigation Fee Act. This act requires certain information to be presented annually to the agency's boards and to the public. Additionally, certain statements about the program are required to be made by the board every 5 years. So that involves the resolution that's before you today, or the resolutions that are before you today. Those resolutions follow the board report and contain the appropriate statements required by the Mitigation Fee Act. In summary, the resolution states that fees are collected to fund construction of the corridors as authorized by our program rules, that the fees are fair and reasonable based on the benefit to development that the corridors provide. The fees are a component of the total funding utilized, along with toll revenue bonds, to design and construct the corridors. And the anticipated funding collected is expected to be deposited into the appropriate account as scheduled in the agency's bond indentures. And that follows right along for the requirements of the Mitigation Fee Act to provide for reporting. So, in summary, for each agency, staff is recommending that the boards receive and file the member agency audits from the prior year, include the member agencies listed in next year's audits, receive and file the annual Mitigation Fee Act information that's provided in the report, and adopt a resolution that makes certain statements about our fee program required every 5 years by the Mitigation Fee Act. And that concludes my presentation. If anyone has any questions.
Great, thank you, great. Directors, are there any questions? Is that a question or is that just
Motion to approve.
all right, so let's begin with San Joaquin, so that worked out perfect. We have Director Piotr making a motion to approve staff's recommendations. Scott, I assume?
Second, San Joaquin.
A second from Vice Chair Harut. All on the San Joaquin Hills, please vote yay or nay. Yay first. Yay. And nay second. No nays. Any abstentions? All right, that passes unanimously. I need a motion now from a Foothill Eastern. Very good. Thank you, Director Crane. Thank you, Director Ward. All in favor on Foothill Eastern?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Looks like those both carry unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr. Walker. All right, the next item is for information, receive and file only, but a very exciting update on the Get Moving Orange County presentation. Mr. Chesney, I believe you get to kick us off. Thank you.
Transportation Corridor Agency is committed to a stakeholder engagement process. It's better? Yeah, I just turned it on, sorry about that.
It's hard to hear.
Okay. The Transportation Corridor Agency is committed to a stakeholder engagement process to find mobility solutions that includes the public and elected officials in South Orange County, in the South Orange County region. Additionally, TCA held a public forum to discuss regional mobility issues regarding South Orange County on June 20th, 2016. This presentation will recap the highlights from the initial public forum, review the efforts of the South Orange County Mobility Working Group with our elected officials, preview the next follow-up public forum that will be occurring on October 5th, 2016, and illustrate the various online and digital venues created for engaging the public on regional mobility issues. With me is Jeff Corliss and Jennifer Fitzgerald from the Venture Strategic Team, part of our strategic planning consulting group. I'd like to bring them up and we'll begin the presentation.
Very good. Welcome, Mr. Corliss and Mayor. And you're here both.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Directors, Jeff Corliss. Today we would like to provide you with an update on communications and public outreach efforts conducted thus far in 2016 with respect to the South Orange County Regional Transportation Mobility. Our strategic communications objectives during the course of the last 9 months have been to engage the public, stakeholders, and elected officials in a collaborative and iterative process that began building upon the foundational recommendations of the community ascertainment study in an effort to establish a high level of agreement around a definition of the region's mobility challenges. Just to quickly review with you, here's where we're at in the process. The community ascertainment study was completed and analyzed earlier this year. The data and results of that study were analyzed in conjunction with our review of historical, qualitative, and quantitative agency research. The strategies developed from the analysis of that research led us to develop and implement the initial stakeholder collaboration and public engagement process in South Orange County. We've made meaningful progress thus far in that initial stakeholder collaboration and public engagement process, and we'll also preview what is next in further regional stakeholder engagement beyond South Orange County, which is critically important. Our strategies and actions during the last 9 months include the community ascertainment study, forming the South Orange County Mobility Working Group, some public forums, as well as digital media outreach. We've analyzed both the quantitative and qualitative research data as a foundational guide for effective engagement that would be received as genuine, inclusive, and transparent. We organized and engaged elected officials starting in the South Orange County region to form the South Orange County Mobility Working Group. We also began engaging the public through in-person public forums developed with direction and input from the South Orange County Mobility Working Group. And we initiated an effort to engage the public online and establish broader participation across all demographics.
As you may know, different demographics engage through different methods of communications, and we are implementing an ongoing, robust online outreach effort to engage all of those demographics. The community ascertainment study provided a portion of the data that was utilized in our research analysis and guided the development of the communications and outreach strategies. As you will recall from the study earlier this year, the South Orange County community members who participated in that study reached high levels of agreement around defining the mobility problem. The stakeholder-driven outreach and public engagement process was designed to be a ground-up process. These concentric circles before you best reflect the development of broader outreach and our efforts to increase participation beyond traditional norms. One of the most critical elements of this process is the engagement of stakeholders and elected officials beyond the South Orange County region, which is at the forefront of our upcoming outreach activities. Considering the broadly accepted definition, the problem is that it is regional, not just local.
So collaboration to date with elected officials and community leaders have centered around how to approach this problem regionally with local considerations. We've worked in conjunction with partner agencies, specifically Caltrans and OCTA, to ensure that their perspectives are incorporated into this process. And we've put a large emphasis on transparency, which is why all the materials distributed to the public at the public forums remain available on the Get Moving Orange County website. Our initial outreach to elected officials has been through the South Orange County Mobility Working Group, which is made up of South Orange County elected officials who also serve in a regional leadership capacity, either on OCTA or TCA. And those members include Vice Chair Supervisor Lisa Bartlett, OCTA Chair Lori Donchek, OCTA Director Frank Urey, as well as TCA Directors Kathy Ward, Carrie Ferguson, Scott Schofel, Tony Beal, and Ed Sachs. And this South Orange County Mobility Working Group was exactly prescribed by the ascertainment study, by the public, who specifically said that they expected their local elected officials to develop solutions to the regional mobility problem. Collectively, this group agreed on this definition of our regional mobility problem. You'll see it looks very similar to the collective definition that the public came up with through the ascertainment study. And then they proceeded to explore their ideas that sought to alleviate this problem. This South Orange County Mobility Working Group, they've really taken on the challenge of trying to find solutions. Since January, they've been working together in the recognition that this is a regional problem that has very specific local impacts. And the descriptions that you see there at the bottom of that slide really detail some of the local impacts that were highlighted by some of this group's elected officials.
As you know, we held our first public forum on June 20th in Laguna Niguel. The purpose of that forum was to inform the public about the communications and outreach process and the engagement process that we're going through, educate them on a number of different things, including demographics, presentations that were made to the South Orange County Mobility Working Group on transportation planning. OCTA's made presentations to that working group and did also to the public. We have a presentation from SCAG and a number of other transportation planning experts, which many of you saw in your participation in that effort.
And as well at the public forum, there was transportation modeling that showed future impacts on the I-5 corridor and in arterials in the region. And the public then had the opportunity to engage in small groups at that public forum and propose transportation solution ideas.
And as you see on this next slide, just a sample of the presentations, but most importantly in those small groups, each group had a map where they got to place stickers on different areas where they thought transportation solutions could be incorporated across a number of different modes, whether it was transit, bus service, bike lanes, extending freeways, adding lanes to arterials, transportation mobility hubs. So it was great input, and all of those materials are going to be made available to the public so that they can see how this process is unfolded. When they first arrived at the forum, they had a chance to put on a large map on the wall areas where they had the most traffic, had experienced the most traffic congestion in their daily lives. This next slide is just a brief video that gives you an overview of how that forum played out and some of the comments received from some of our stakeholders at the end.
I think it was fantastic. A lot of energy in the room, a lot of creative ideas coming along, and everybody thinks, I mean, there's a need here to fix our mobility issues in South Orange County and frankly the county as a whole. And so it's fantastic to see everyone trying to be creative and work toward a solution that meets as many folks' needs as possible.
Really impressed with the number and people turnout. Again, demographics, always interested in that. Young, old, mix of all sorts of different people from all over the county. Really interesting.
The forum was great. It was overall well attended. We had a lot of engagement from the community members, and we look forward for their ideas on how to handle traffic congestion in the future.
Great start to a public outreach. That there's good enthusiasm, there's good turnout, and I think we provided a good forum for them to get a little bit of information and then generate their own ideas to see what's possible.
That's the big question. That's probably what I enjoyed about the forum the most, is you just look around and listen to all the conversation that's going on. We're going to hear from each of the tables and be able to compile all the data of what they actually want. What I'm hearing most of, they want options. We need multiple options to solve this problem. One size will not fit all, and as I mentioned in my opening remarks earlier, what's right for one area of our country is not necessarily what's right for here. They want to find out what the perfect fit is.
So my table is fascinating because we have an urban planner, we have, you know, an environmental activist, we have an academic, we have a housewife, we have a really different demographic at that table, and I think it's pretty representative of what Southern California is looking for. I think the thing that we need in our culture here more than anything is improvement of all mobility. So I have total hope in the future that these ideas are going to keep fostering, and Orange County can actually really pull it off because there's some unique places and it's not overdeveloped like something like Manhattan. You know, we have places where we can be creative.
Well, I mean, it's hard to say because we're just getting started on our first night, but overarching, I think the common theme is options. They want choices. They want the ability to not be stuck on any one solution, any one mode of travel, but everything from transit to bikes to electric vehicles. The sky's the limit on that. And they want a clean environment and protect our open space, which is very important to South Orange County. So that's the best part, I think, is coming up with creative options for folks.
The social media promotion statistics we wanted to highlight for you, as we did certainly promote this heavily online. It's definitely a cost-effective and efficient way for us to reach out to the public and build relationships with folks in the online space. The digital promotion of the last forum, these results really confirmed for us that the most engaging demographics that reacted to most of our outbound messages were ages 18 to 24 and 65 plus. So those demographics were very interesting, and you see 55% women and 75% of the views were on the actual website itself. So they got an ad either on Facebook or on one of the local newspapers, I think it's media papers that register, and they clicked to the site, and that's how they got to us. Some quick statistics on the forum engagement. We had 109 RSVPs. We gathered 104 emails. 76 people opted in to provide us with their cell phone. We are excited about that. It's another way for us to communicate with them over the course of time. We had over 100 in-person attendees, not including staff and folks that organized. And then 65 text survey participants. We did online text surveys at the beginning and end of the forum. And we did the 7 on-camera interviews. We live streamed this public forum, which is a very exciting tool in our minds for really keeping the younger demographics engaged. and getting people to participate who couldn't travel to the area, possibly due to traffic or other reasons. And as a result, we had doubled our participation, which was very exciting. This brought as many people to participate in the forum as we had in-person attendees. We'd also like to note that 43% of the participants came from the San Clemente area, and we had about 23 consistent views and 59 unique views.
And the other great thing about this is that this keeps that forum alive online, and it really goes to the transparency of the process. Anytime anyone can go back on this getmovingoc.com website and see the entire forum.
Through our digital media strategy, we developed two website portals for different purposes. One is getmovingoc.com, which is really a collection plate for all of the documents, the forums, all of the materials, notes, everything that is compiled through this process. It's a great portal for capturing all this material, making it available to anyone, anywhere, 24/7. If they can't participate when a forum happens live, they can go watch it online. They can download the presentations. They can see the notes. We're in the process of updating that as we're promoting the next forum. This is where the participants RSVP. It has surveys about issues. And that's really about process engagement. The other portal is howsthedrive.com. This is another vehicle for engaging people through issues. Not everyone wants to participate in public forums or immediately thinks, yes, I want to participate when they get invited to a public forum, but we can certainly encourage more people and reach a broader audience if we connect with people and develop relationships with them over the course of time on issues that are important to them, and that might increase the chances that they do participate. What's next is our public forum number 2, which is, as Mike stated, on October 5th at 5:30 at the St. Andrews by the Sea in San Clemente. Following that, we will have regional mobility briefings that we're organizing with community organizations, and also continuing to brief Orange County elected officials beyond the South Orange County region. We also are beginning one-on-one briefings with state and federal legislators in the area to update them on this process so they can see how it's evolving.
And I'll make a note on the next public forum, because I know it was I had discussions with a couple directors specifically after the last forum. This second public forum is going to be completely interactive. There will be no major presentations done. The subject of the forum will be the 15 different ideas that both the public and the South Orange County Mobility Working Group have come up with and asked us to model and study as potential solutions. So there will be interactive exhibits that people for 2 hours can interact with. We'll have 2 different reporting times where the entire group comes back, and it's an open mic time for people to react corporately as to how they have been interacting with the exhibits. So we're really excited to hear from all the public that's going to attend this next forum about how they're reacting to what they asked us to study.
And that the way this public forum was designed was very much based on the feedback from the participants of the last forum. They wanted more opportunities to engage and provide feedback. So that's why there are no presentations from staff, agencies, or consultants. It's all about them reviewing what the South Orange County Mobility Working Group has done and reacting to it and providing feedback.
And I think that completes our presentation, if you have any questions.
We do. That's a great presentation. Thank you. Director Crew.
Ms. Fitzgerald, I attended the June 20th forum. Balanced, wonderful presentation. Really appreciated the outreach, in particular to focus on social media, to broaden the audience. One concern I have, though, is if we're talking about bringing people to the table, stakeholders and partnerships and so forth that we're trying to develop, I felt that representatives from the development community were conspicuously absent. It was mentioned at my table and at other tables as well. Could you explain why representatives from the development community aren't present, or if they were present, and identify themselves and in some ways participate?
Thanks very much. I know you and I had a great conversation after the last public forum, and I appreciate your comments. There actually was a representative of the ranch there that night, and the ranch It's my understanding the ranch has been engaged through various groups in this process. As to why they didn't identify themselves or why there weren't more there, I don't know that I have an answer to that question.
Or they could have, you could have had, I would assume, a speaker from,
Yeah.
or a representative. You had such a, as I said, a broad reach here. It just seemed odd to me.
Okay, certainly. And at the South Orange County Mobility Working Group, one of the presentations that they received was an update from the ranch. So I will definitely, we can talk about, how we can bring that further into the public domain there.
Absolutely, and there's certainly opportunities at future forums where we could look at programming that a little bit better and adding some type of presentation or information for the public from that perspective. Thank you, Director. Okay, good. Directors Ferguson, Bartlett, and then Piotr.
Yes, as one who has participated in the mobility working group from not the very beginning, but very close to the beginning, I really want to compliment all of you that have been working on that, and as well as Steve Brown, who has been doing a lot of the modeling, and I know Steve and Mike Chesney have worked very closely together and done a wonderful job. I do have one question on the latest map because it's very consequential to the area, and that is number 9. It's now represented as connecting the 73 with Ortega, and it was my intention when I first drew it, and has been my intention all along, that connect to Antonio. At least that be one of the connections, and it makes a huge difference on the modeling, and so I would appreciate that. And also I'll talk to you afterwards about a possible connection at the other end through Trabuco Creek that would be a lot less expensive. So I'll talk with you about that later. But overall, I can't say enough for the quality of at least as far as the working group is concerned.
That's a great compliment. Thank you, Director Ferguson. Chairwoman Bartlett.
Chair, yeah, can I was just going to answer real quick. So, Director Ferguson, yeah, we'll definitely, I know that we did model both the connections to Antonio and Ortega, and we can correct the map.
It makes a big difference for Ortega, believe me.
Right, and I can certainly talk to you offline about the
Talk about it
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think the great thing about the South County Mobility Forum, and then also the workshops that we're having, is that we're working collaboratively with the public at large to reach some of these solutions. So even though individual members and organizations may have a particular solution that they like, collectively we've got to start honing down what are the real possibilities out there. It's not just something that one organization might want versus another organization, but collectively with all of the participants, what are the realistic opportunities that we have to improve regional mobility in South County? What are the options that we think are feasible that are going to work? Some are not politically feasible, some are not financially feasible. So collectively as a group, that's the great thing about the forums. And I hope everyone attends the October 5th forum, because this is not just a South County mobility problem. This is a regional mobility issue that collectively we all need to work together to solve. And we want everyone's input into the process, because we've got to start working on the different opportunities that we have so that we can hone down the 15 to some realistic things that everyone collectively agrees are realistic opportunities and options that we can actually put in place for regional mobility. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Bartlett. Director Piotr.
All right, I'm getting some basic questions. Who are you? Who funds you? Who's your board of directors? Why are you here? You may have filled other people in, but I'm lost.
Can I ask to get that clarified, meaning who are you?
Yeah, and we talked about this with Mr. Kramer yesterday. As we bring both boards together, that's completely understandable.
Venture Strategic is a consultant that was hired by Foothill Eastern to be our consultant to help us with our public outreach. So Jeff and Jennifer work for us under contract, Foothill Eastern.
Okay, so you're a TCA element, mainly Foothill.
And I think that's one of the real, I'm sorry to interrupt you, sorry, go ahead.
How are you working with or related to Mobility 21?
Separate from that, Mobility 21 is a separate organization, and we're not tied to them at all. This is something that TCA is initiating themselves.
Are you cooperating with them, trying to use resources together? How are you doing that?
Their purpose is as an transportation advocacy group, so that's a formation like TCA. We are a member of Mobility 21. This our organization is, and a lot of our directors participate in that as well. So I think it's important, and one of the things, this is one of the beauties of now having combined board meetings, is one of the things that was missing when the two boards met separately was when things that were Foothill Eastern, like this project, the San Joaquin Hills board members didn't have an opportunity to see these briefings and hear about it. Yet when you guys are out in the public doesn't differentiate you as San Joaquin members and Foothill Eastern. They think of you as TCA board members. So it is really a good opportunity to help all of both boards get up to speed on some of these really big issues that we're dealing with as an agency.
Thank you. You bet. And Scott, thank you for bringing it up. And Mike, you're exactly right. That's why the combined board and why you're able to present to the combined board is so important. And I think it underscores what you both said to us, that this is a regional issue. And yet, historically, we've been treating it as a Foothill Eastern issue only. But because it's regional, it's great to bring our brethren on the other side of the board. Director Sachs, I think you had a question.
Thank you. I want to compliment the working group because at our last meeting, we had two pretty high-power environmental folks there. They gave their input to the group, so it was encouraging when you get that kind of involvement as a go-forward kind of process, and you feel like you're going forward. However, if I could add on to what Director Bartlett said, at some point we got to cut the hay and get down to what the realities are, what's going to be done, because we could spend forever talking about possibilities and that sort of thing. So hopefully we can start to narrow the focus down from a shotgun approach to more of a rifle. I'm talking now. I know you steal my microphone, and so anyway, those are my comments.
Very good, thank you. Are there any other comments? Yes, Director Ward and then Director Hack.
As a member of the working group, and one of the things that TCA and all of this that we said, and our goal was one approach would not fit all and would not do all. We needed multiple approaches. That was even stated today. So I think all of these multiple ideas do need to be vetted from all the stakeholders, especially the electeds, because a lot of thought has been put into them and research. And I think the public should hear what all the options are, because one approach is not going to do it all. And that was also said by OCTA. So I just think, all these other options are good, and arterials are important, so we should be talking about those also, because I think that's what the public brought up also, was different ideas.
Yeah, well said. Director Hacks.
Yeah, I'm interested because frankly, we have TCA approach and we have Opta's approach, so we basically have the bus systems and we have the toll roads and what have you. Where are the rail reps? Where are they involved in this thing?
One of the ideas that did come up was some type of track improvements or train frequency improvements to the South Orange County area. And we didn't have any specific rail representatives there, but through our modeling, we did include that.
Well, and I would say that OCTA runs the LoSAM corridor, and so they are represented at the table through that.
The thing that's bugged me for a long time is the rail transit down here is limited, I will tell you. I love to go up to Skag, and I normally would like to leave my car down here. But when I get through at noon with a meeting at Skag, and I have to wait around till 3 o'clock to get a train back, it doesn't work. And the point being is, in order to build a rail system, you have to have loss leaders. The public has to know that there's trains running on a constant basis. And until that happens, you're not going to build a system. I mean, I like to go up there at night for an entertainment and what have you, but I want to know that at 11:30, 12 o'clock, there's a train back. And it doesn't do me any good to know that I can get on the road and drive back, yeah. But that's not anything unusual. So there is a lot of building we can do here if in fact we have rail involved. So why can't we have some rail folk involved in this thing?
I'd say that right now we have OCTA represented, which does, they are the leaders in the rail transit effort here in Orange County.
They're protecting right-of-ways. By and large, that's not a representative rail. I find that frankly doing it.
What I can say is that through the modeling that we've been doing, one of the things that we've been able to bring forward is increasing train frequency.
Right.
Now, what it takes to do that, whether it's double tracking or additional improvements, we're leaving that off, but we're trying to see what the result is if we do increase the frequency to match the North Orange County area. And so that has been moving forward.
Okay.
We've been kicking this thing around for a long time, but we haven't seen improvements in the last 5 or 6 years. I know I've been talking this stuff up for at least 5 or 6 years.
Okay. And I would add to that we did specifically get a comment from the public at the meeting, I think a number of comments about the train schedules and how that limits the ability to fully utilize rails. So why don't we make sure we kick that comment to OCTA, and then if they kick it to others like to Metrolink or whatever, but let's do that as part of our follow-up, because Director Hack's point was actually one of the specific comments we got from the public at the workshop. We must have a pretty informed public that attended.
I just appreciate the fact that Director Hacks wants to party until midnight up in LA. Director Ferguson, you got another comment?
Just a couple of comments. The first is that as I recall, this whole project was an outgrowth of the fact that the Tesoro extension was not approved, and that there was tremendous environmental and other opposition to that to begin with. And so it's grown from that and become something different, and which is a good thing. That's one thing. The second thing is I agree on the trains, and I would, although the train I do go on is really full all the time, coming and going, and I always treasure the time I spend on the train because I can sit and read or just sit, which is unusual. The other thing I would just mention is that the Metrolink, when you get downtown, does come every few minutes. And so it's just constantly fed with customers. And so I would reiterate exactly what Director Hack had to say about frequency. I think it would add a lot to the usefulness and the overall use of the trains.
Okay. Directors, thank you for all of your comments. So Director Shea has a comment, and then we'll bring it to a close. We do have a long closed session to go to.
Would you
Director
recommend
Shea.
I didn't talk?
No, I would love for you to speak.
I thought maybe, okay.
That'll be enough.
I'll just be quick. I want to thank our consultants and our staff, but what I would like to know, because I hear a lot of talk that I'm kind of concerned, I don't see any conclusions or any data that we got out of the forum. So do we have any kind of written report or summary report we could all look at to just understand what was brought together at that meeting for the forum?
Absolutely, Director Shea. All of the materials that came out of the first forum are going to be updated online and available so that you can go download them. Everything from notes from each table to maps to things that people wanted. And that's also coupled with the 15 transportation projects that came out of the Mobility Working Group, as well as proposed by the public, organized in 5 different packages. So those, probably the most clear conclusions are the transportation projects that the public has proposed. And then, of course, those will be presented with the traffic analysis back to the public in this upcoming forum on October 5th. And then, of course, the data and responses from from the presentations at each of the exhibit tables will be made available as well.
Maybe I could just turn to our CEO. Could I get a written copy? I mean, I'm just, late at night, I like to sit there and read and, outline everything. Well, plan?
Sure. I think that's a good idea. So we can put a package together with everybody.
That would be great, thank you.
Basically what's going to be presented. The other thing is that after the next public forum, after October 5th, I think that would be an appropriate time that if any of the cities would want us to come and make a presentation to their city councils and kind of recap it, we'll be available to do that as well.
That would be wonderful.
Good. All right, folks, thank you so much for all of your work and the work that you just started and beginning to continue with. Director Hacks, it was pointed out to me that Dave Simpson's here in the audience, and so perhaps two of you can connect specifically on the metro issue. And Dave Burt likes to travel late at night, so just keep that in mind. All right, this is receive and file, so no need to vote on this. Let's move on to the Chief Executive Officer's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of items. One, tonight, the Orange County Taxpayers Association is holding their annual Roses and Radishes dinner, and TCA will be recognized at that dinner, so drum roll. We will be recognized with a rose this year. And so I know a number of the board members will be attending that dinner as well. The rose that we're getting is for our rental car program and the agreements that we put in place to make it easier for our visitors and tourists and people getting their car fixed to use a rental car and make it easier for them to use our road and make it more difficult for that to result in a violation. So all good things. Let's see, the Natural Communities Coalition, NCC, and you probably remember them more as NROC, the Nature Reserve of Orange County, but they recently went through a name change, but they're going to be having their 20th anniversary celebration, and it's going to take place Thursday, September 15th from 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock a.m. at Bomber Canyon Cattle Camp in Irvine. So this is an outdoor venue, so it's casual attire, closed-toed shoes are recommended. But this is a really important event, 20 years to celebrate really the first NCCP, HCP that was put in place here, one of the first in the nation and the first in Orange County, and TCA played a huge role in pioneering that and was one of the founding partners for that effort. So this is to celebrate the 20 years is a great event, and all of you are welcome, and we'll be putting more information in that in the weekly newsletter and things like that for all of you. Additionally, the Center for Demographic Research will be hosting an open house on Thursday, October 13th from 2:30 to 5 p.m. at its new office location at Cal State Fullerton. So the Center for Demographic Research is again one of the regional organizations that we participate on that does all of the research that all of us use, TCA, OCTA, SCAG, for our background demographics in terms of our modeling for population, job growth, and other things that then feeds into our planning models and things like that. So that will be a good event, and we'll get more information in the weekly updates as well about that. And then finally, this is going to be this weekend will be the start of a series of weekends in terms of our partner agency OCTA and the 91 Express Lanes Rehab Project. So Dave Lowe has a quick briefing to give you so that if you get asked about this project, you'll know what's going on.
Good morning. Can you hear me all? So this is an OCTA project, and they're going to be rehabbing the pavement on the 91 Express Lanes. So, this is some of the media campaign that OCTA has been distributing throughout the county. If you see it on Facebook, Twitter, you'll see all these things about the weekend shift. And they're encouraging people to share this, so if you get the chance to do that, please do. So this is what they're be fixing on the 91 Express Lane. Some of this pavement is almost 20 years old and it has some distress. So they'll be actually cold milling this pavement down and replacing it in sections, and I'll talk about how those are going to, how that might affect us as the agencies. Part of the campaign is to reroute traffic to avoid the area on the 91. So they've have this map that routes people around to use the 60 rather than the 91. And I'll get into some details on exactly where these closures are and how it might affect people. So this is the 91 freeway, basically from the 55 to the 241. And the first section of pavement they're going to be reconstructing is on the eastbound direction on the very west end near the 55. Now, when they do that pavement section, they'll also close down a lane adjacent to that because the equipment's going to be so close to the adjacent traffic. So while they do that, the lanes will be closed down to about 3 lanes. And so that'll happen in one weekend. So it's a small stretch. They'll probably do a shorter section than normal because they'll get better at it as they go. So that as they progress towards the east, that the next weekend there'll be another section, and the next weekend will be another section. So about the last section is where it's really going to affect our system. And we don't really see any problems with this because it's pushing the traffic out towards the 241. And while there may be some impacts to people who are getting onto the 91 from the 241, there's really no impact to our operations. As they go back towards the westbound direction, they'll start at the very east end and they'll work all the way back to the west. And these are the weekends that are planned. There are 5 weekends in each direction. And that's the preliminary schedule right now. They will have a week off in November because of a holiday, but those are the planned schedule right now, and there may be changes to the weather or things like that, but we'll keep you updated on that. Any questions?
Okay, thank you, Dave. Seeing none. Michael, was that the last of your reports? All right, directors, any reports? Seeing none. Ms. Stoll, I almost got through it all. Director Bartlett,
I'll be quick.
please.
We just had a major event down in Dana Point Harbor. It was our Dana Point Harbor time capsule event. So 50 years ago, August 29th, 1966, we buried a time capsule with contents from the region at large. And we decided we're going to open it 50 years later. So August 29th, 2016, 50 years to the date, we had a big event down in Dana Point Harbor to celebrate the opening of the time capsule event with a barbecue. So original participants in 1966 were given a ticket for a free barbecue. And believe it or not, people kept these tickets for 50 years, and they showed up at the event on August 29th, 2016. So it was really exciting. They flew over from all over the country for the event, which was amazing. We only had about 1,000. We weren't sure how many attendees we would have. And so we only had about 1,000 of the little swag bags and the nice event brochures. And so we ran out quickly because we had over 3,000 people in attendance. But on September the 27th at the Ocean Institute, we're going to debut the video for the entire event, including the 1966 event, the opening of the time capsule and the contents that are now at the Cooper Center in Santa Ana, and then what we're going to do for the future, plus the event that was held on August 29th. So come down to the Ocean Institute, participate, learn more about what we did in the time capsule, because it's something you may want to consider doing in a lot of your cities. I know that we have a number of cities in Orange County that have buried time capsules. I just want to note, and I won't name the city, but one of the cities put together a wonderful time capsule, buried it a number of years ago, but they forgot to mark the location and they can't find it. So we don't know at this point if it's under a road or a building, but hopefully they'll locate it and be able to dig it up. So caution, if you bury one, make sure you note it in your records and you can follow it through the future. So come and join us on September the 27th. We'd love to see you there and participate. Thank you.
Thank you for not mentioning that city, Director Bartlett. I appreciate it.
All right, Counselor, would you read us into, oh, wait a minute, we have another one, Director.
Just to follow up, I was fortunate enough to attend that event, and I can't compliment all of Dana Point enough. It was wonderful to sit there with so many people that had participated 50 years ago, and to feel the pride that they feel in their community. It was marvelous. So
Very exciting.
Inviting us.
Okay, Counselor, if you'd read us into closed session, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair, the boards will be convening jointly in closed session to confer with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation under Government Code 54956.9, subdivisions A and D2, one matter, and regarding existing litigation under 54956.9, subdivisions A and D1 of the Government Code, the 2 items listed on the agenda. We do not anticipate reportable action.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And directors, let's adjourn to our closed session room.